Hello and welcome everyone to episode 70 of the Summoning Hour podcast. I'm joined tonight by University of Oregon esports members Jack and Jamal, both coach and Call of Duty captain
Yep.
for at least one of their teams. I'm Jamal, are you coach for Call of Duty?
So their official title for me is manager, Call of Duty manager, and so me and Jack both agreed on the whole concept of coach for the time being.
Yeah, I mean, he's the coach, manager, same thing. Just like day-to-day stuff, like strats, setting up matches, that sort of stuff. So just like
Got
housekeeping
it.
day-to-day stuff. Yeah.
Sweet. So, let's start off a little bit first. What is the kind of the origin story for University of Oregon esports? Because I know at least I remember trying to find University of Oregon esports this time last year, and either the Twitter was inactive or like non-existent. I can't remember, but like it was probably just low key, not very
Ye-
active.
Yeah, it was probably either inactive or non-existent. That's definitely something that I've been harping on for a long time. Luckily, our Twitter started to pick up just because that's, you know, gaming culture is all on Twitter. But I've definitely been harping on like Instagram and just other socials just to capture a wider audience. Yeah, so origin wise, I not like super clear. I transferred here last year. I'm a junior this year. But I know that really it was just originally a League of Legends club. And League is still definitely the biggest game still here on campus. But it really started there, which is almost a perfect place in game to do so. Biggest esport in the world. Why not? There's going to be a huge audience for it. So they originally started as that, and then as they had more interest for other games, they expanded, and we've rebranded now as just the Gaming Club. That's our student-run organization, and then we also have our esports program, which is fully funded by the school. We're a varsity program, but last year we were a club sport, so we really upgraded from last year to this year. So we have those two separate entities.
So that's actually impressive to go from a club sport to a varsity program in a year.
In a
What
year, yeah,
what
it's
changed?
I think we've had some really good lobbying. Our program director, David, he was an MBA student last year. He graduated, and the school hired him to run the esports program. He definitely did a lot of hard work, along with one other person, to really get that going and get staff behind it, both um, like the staff of our student center as well as just other professors around campus, both in like the business school and the journalism school and kind of all over the place. And they did a really, really good job to sort of elevate that. I know they also did a research project to the benefits of the school joining into it and just the benefits of esports in general, both in, the competitive aspects, teamwork and making friends and also career opportunities down the line. And that's going to be a big part of the program, is working in those career opportunities for the future.
That's fantastic. I know
Yeah,
a lot of people are starting to kind of corral the majors and how they can benefit and how they can interact with this club and trying to build something that like practicing skills and practicum of just making sure that what students are there for has a use for a club. So getting that far already in a year's time and getting buy-in from other faculty, like that's a huge hurdle to have overcome.
it
How's
was.
the
It's super impressive.
how's the venue space for you all? Do you have a dedicated space yet, or is it just kind of there's a conference room that's empty on Friday afternoons kind of deal?
I wish.
Yes. So we were given a space in our student center right in the middle of campus. They repurposed a call center into our brand new esports lounge. It will be open in winter term, so the beginning of January. So we'll have like 25 super high end, really nice setups. We'll have a separate area just for consoles with couches and just sort of to hang out. And then 10 of the 25 setups will be just right in the middle of the room specifically for our competitive team. So those will be even more souped up, PS4 Pros, all that great fancy stuff. So we're super excited.
Man, to go from club sport to fully funded with a lounge and just
Yeah, it's really impressive. It's amazing. I mean, especially, just as a member of the gaming club last year and founding the Call of Duty team, I don't think anybody really expected us to go this far so fast. I mean, even, the two people who really made it happen, I don't even know if they knew that it was going to happen that fast. That to get faculty and, and higher ups at the school, I mean, this isn't something small. Like it's a big thing that they're adding. It's essentially like adding another sports program. So it's a big deal, and it's big props to those two people.
And
Super fortunate to have them.
it's also a nice little shout out to our program director because his higher up happened to be the person that gave us the space because she's the like our student union like director for a space, and she's all about winning, and so
Yeah,
that's
she's
kind of
all
how I
in. She's all in. So we're super thankful for her.
the duck pride runs deep.
Absolutely.
As soon as you start saying, "Oh, uh, Oregon State, they have a team," there starts to be blood in the water.
Yeah, yeah.
What's wild though is that Oregon State is still a club sport in terms of League of Legends. It was actually the Christian school right next to us, Northwest Christian, that really motivated us to push the
Yeah.
program a lot faster.
Yeah, it's actually super interesting. Yeah. It's just this like super tiny. I don't even know how many students there is. It's got to be less than 1,000.
Mhm.
But they have just this little space, almost like a little closet in there for their teams. I think they have Overwatch, Rocket League. They had like, a couple other teams. Yeah, that really motivated the school to say, hey, look, this tiny Christian university can have esports, an esports program and succeed. Why are we, a top 50 school in the nation? Why are we not already on this? So I think that was part of the fast tracking as well as the school realizing how behind they were.
That's actually a really good point because I've heard of several other smaller universities, like accredited, legitimate, like double A, single A kind of size schools who are first in line for getting to varsity scholarships over
Right.
some schools like even UW. Like UW doesn't offer scholarships, but like
Right.
now they have a gaming lounge in their student center, and like they're starting
Yep.
to get competitive with it and starting to recognize, hey, there is value to this. But I think even your guys' program is farther along than that. Like, so
Yeah.
that's crazy to like the amount of power rankings are shifting so fast now that
Yeah.
esports is bought in. Like, if I had to consider it at a collegiate level, it has been bought in on. Everyone
Yeah.
who
It's super
hasn't,
impressive.
yeah, everyone who hasn't started is now way behind.
Yep. Yeah, and I think a lot of staff actually went up to UW to visit their space, like right as it opened or right before. And I know our League of Legends team also traveled to Boise State. I know they have like a whole arena built out there. So to go there, I think that was also, like again a big push for the school. Like, hey, we got to catch up. So this is start small and then kind of expand. Just have the 5 competitive teams, see how we do, and then further down the line when we have more funding, hopefully from donors and as well as the school, scholarships will come into play. Yeah, so it's
And I
exciting.
think I know Jack wasn't a part of this, but I was part of a summer board for the space that's getting developed right now, and we were critiquing both the UW and the Boise space because there was a lot of drawbacks. So we realized that if we're gonna make this an inviting space, it can't be like a broom closet essentially. And so what the creative director and everyone else, the architect for the space for our student union, pretty much said is that they want to have that Oregon flair. We're known for that flashiness and everything like that. And they're like, that's going to bring in students, and hopefully that generates money for the scholarships that Jack was talking about. Because at the end of the
Yep.
day, that when we were being, I don't even know how to properly describe it. Like last year was such a blur because all of our teams were so successful that probably promoted this just even to like skyrocket quicker. So
Yeah.
it's just nice.
So actually, let's jump into that. Well, actually, first, 2 other points. One, happy 10th anniversary birthday League of Legends. So congrats,
Yes.
and like,
Yeah,
I mean,
congrats to Riot. Those guys,
Golf
yeah.
clap.
Big ups to them. We're both console people, but credit to where credit is due. Riot's done something that's super impressive. I think them and maybe CS are probably one of on the few list of those legendary games that will just kind of stand at the test of time. So big ups to Riot.
Yeah.
Second, let's get a proper introduction for you guys and say your origin stories, because we just dove right in. Like we're like
Oh yeah. I mean
100.
it's short. Jamal, you can go first if you want.
Oh, sure. So, my name's Jamal. My PSN is Lil Get Up. Most people just call me Jamal for short. It's easier. Uh, the way I found the club was a banner coming across the street. It was my first year as a transfer student, about almost 2 years ago now, and I was like, oh, cool. Gaming club. Let's go check it out. I game casually, and I ran across Jack. He was the only crazy minded person that wanted to start a COD team. He was like, hey, I have two other people. You want to go try out? I was like, sure. And lo and behold, last year we played, had a 500 record, went in playoffs, got into the second round, like blew our expectations out of the water because everyone thought we were going to lose every game. Granted, the forfeits, thank you. Um,
We don't need to talk about those.
but like the competitive nature of our league and like being a part like-minded people like Jack and my teammates were really nice. But that's kind of my origin story. I just happened to run across a banner across campus and helped me generate some new friends, helped me generate some nice connections within our Call of Duty community. I have a pretty decent relationship with our program director, so like if I need to voice my opinion, I can go talk to him. If Jack comes into a call, we can all figure it out. So that's kind of like where I ended up.
Nice. And how about you,
Yeah.
Jack?
Yeah, so I transferred here last year. Similar to Jamal, but a little different. We have a club fair every year right before school starts. It's mainly meant for freshmen, but as well as transfer students, and just other students in general, just to find out more about clubs on campus. And I saw that there was League of Legends club, but there wasn't just an overarching esports or gaming club. So I still showed up, just talked to them. They were really interested in expanding into other games, and they had been in other games. The year before I was there, so 2 years ago, they had League, Overwatch, PUBG, and maybe Rocket League. Um, so they were still labeled as the League of Legends club, but they were essentially the esports and gaming club still. So I just asked them like, hey, interested in having a Call of Duty team, and they said, yeah, go for it if you can find people. That's perfect. That's really one of the only requirements we have here to form a team is if there's interest, if there's a legitimate collegiate league, and if the game's deemed appropriate by the school, then go for it. So luckily found four other guys who were crazy enough to trust me to found a team and be captain and kind of manage the whole thing. And found one other along the way and just made a really great group of friends. And now we're here. I'm on the admin board for our gaming club and looking forward to season 2 of the College Call of Duty League.
Great. That's not too dissimilar from other people I've heard joining in.
Yeah.
One of my favorite stories is the president, or maybe former president now, of Arizona State University. He never played games
Really
until he got to college. So he was completely
interesting.
new to it, but he was all about the admin behind it, and so he put it all together, and then he built those relationships and that social structure just by starting to play games casually with the people who were there. So I mean, Jamal, you kind of mentioned this with your story of like building that social connection. What's the social community sense of esports now on campus for you all?
Uh, what I've noticed, at least for like my peer groups outside of like esports and everything like that, is they're very like engaging because they do this the whole concept of the stereotypical gamer. You know, they're gonna be overweight. They're gonna like be like have gamma fuel going through their veins, and they're like super like energetic and stuff like that. But when I told them that I was part of a team, they kind of had a paradigm shift almost in a sense. And so our school is notorious for our journalism school. And so I had a lot of these like J students coming over to me asking like, hey, like, can I just talk to you? Like, I don't want to like do it as a project. I just want to know like what got you into it. And it was just like that was my chance to really step out and like speak like forth about our community, like just gaming in general. And so in terms of social aspect within our community, it was just like me personally again, it was just like I want to tell all my gamer friends like, hey, how about we just try to like shed this positive light and showcase what we're good at, yes, but also show that like each gaming community is really unique. Like for COD, like we can trash talk someone, but 15 minutes later we can go out and have fun and just like have a decent time. I know Gears, they're a rowdy bunch, but at the same time they understand their personalities. They understand the whole aspect of it. And getting people from the outside seeing that like, yeah, we're very like energetic and vocal about something like that, and like we can go play basketball, play football, like 20 minutes later and still compete with a normal person, have a 4.0 GPA or something like that. We're not just the stereotypical like we're gonna stay in the basement for 15 hours. So.
Yeah. I mean, I think just in terms of community on campus, not the whole school's not aware, like of, obviously this is a horrible example, but compared to our football team, like every single person on campus knows, is fully aware, like, but it, yeah, there's just no way. But, I think our esports lounge in our student center is really going to help and draw attention, just even more of the casual community. I think in our Discord we have almost 500 people. Obviously, all those aren't students, not staff. It's a lot of outside people, but it's just a number of people who are interested in what we're doing here and are really backing us, even though they're just not. They aren't just a number in our Discord, but they're represented by it. But we really appreciate every single one of those people because that really helped us to push the staff and say like, hey, look, we have this backing of 400, 500 people. Like there's this many people interested on campus. Like we have to do something about it. But in terms of like the casual community, that's what our gaming club is for. It's really meant not strictly for the casual player, but it's tailored to them. Just because I think esports and the competitive nature of it really overwhelms a lot of people. It's this, they just don't want anything a part of it. Um, so that's what our gaming club is for, is just have a good time, come hang out, make friends. But then of course for those who are interested in that competitive side, there's an esports program.
Yeah, and going off what you were just saying, Jack, as of right now, just kind of popping into our Discord, even we have like 47 people online, like in our Discord by itself right now. Then online, just like naturally, it's 500 people like all together. So that half a thousand people can go tell their friend that doesn't play games to like really just come check it out. And I know me and Jack are really big about this with our league, the CCL. Quick plug, by the way. These guys are really cool. They come in and they help us grow not only our Discord but just like more awareness to like other people that aren't aware of our video game. And it's really cool. Like these guys are computer engineers. They have very versed like major backgrounds and stuff like that. And so they hang out in our Discord, we hang out in their Discord, and we just try to make it into one big family. And we always welcome more people in, like regardless of the age.
Yeah, and I mean, 47 may not sound like a whole lot being online right now, but like as a former RA, having 47 people show up to your event, that would be like a
Yeah.
mind-blowing success. Like
Yeah.
that's like
Yeah.
almost cheating when you have like two gargantuan pizzas that are like barely fit through the doorway, and then that's what causes people to show up. But that's cheating. When you bring free food, it's
Yeah.
just everyone swarms to it. But like
Right.
now we're talking like things that people bring on their own, like their console or their PC, and they're playing together as part of a University of Oregon community. That's like a program that never stops. It's like it
Yeah.
goes
Right.
late in the morning. It keeps people in their dorm rooms or in a safe space on campus. It gets them involved. It gets them building those social structures. Like every bit of that just speaks to this is a positive impact on campus, and why wouldn't the universities be supporting this? Which is then you get into the games that they can't support because it's
Yeah,
graphic violence,
that's
the themes, that kind of stuff.
yeah. We've had a lot of discussion with them. There's been a lot of discussion in our Discord about having Rainbow Six and CS, and unfortunately, just due to the nature, we just can't have it. I would love a CS team. I think CS is the best esport to watch, hands
It
down,
really
like
is.
uncontested. But just the school won't support it. And even with us in Call of Duty, we've had a lot of complaints for those people asking about R6 and CS. Like, well, how does COD operate then? How is that, how is that different from R6 and CS? And they're somewhat right, but it's also we put in the time last year. The staff knows us that we're good people. We mean well. That you know we work hard and we should be represented. But we also walk a very thin line with them just due to the nature of our game. So
It was a lot of
we do our
lobbying.
best. Yeah.
So
And I mean, look where the school was last year. Look where you are now. I'm
Right.
sure Rainbow Six and Counter Strike is on the way. Like it's just
Yeah.
almost inevitable between
Yeah.
the crazy growth that CR6 has had with over 200 teams this fall season, and
Right.
then Counter Strike, like you mentioned, it's the only other esport that's really stood the test of time outside of fighting games, which just is a whole different
Yeah.
spaghetti
Fighting games
monster.
too. Yeah.
So outside of that, you CS, League of Legends, that's all you got. Like
Yeah.
it's just
And
a matter
that's
of time.
Yeah, and that's honestly the fantastic thing about our gaming club is that it allows a space for those games to exist. So it can't necessarily operate under our varsity program, but people are still free to make teams under the gaming club. It just can't be the University of Oregon CS:GO team. It just has to be Counter Strike at the University of Oregon. I know it sounds the exact same, but for anybody who's worked with staff and administration, you'll know the difference. Um, so they can't directly represent the university, but they can say, "Hey, we attend here." So um, those teams definitely can still exist, just unfortunately not under our varsity program. But maybe somewhere in the future, the school realizes, this is CS is a game we have to be in. It's like we talked about. It's one of the longest lasting games. I mean, it's probably the second biggest esport. I don't know the numbers. Maybe Dota and then CS, along with League. But you know,
I
the more eyes,
know
the better. So.
I know for CS especially last year, we had about 5 people in there like actively protesting for CS, and our first gaming club meeting last week, we had a she came up and she was like, "Hey, can I start a team?" We gave her that spiel, and believe it or not, like 10 more people appeared out of the woodwork in our Discord asking for a CS team. And we're
Yeah,
like,
there's like 20 people for CS and like 10 for R6. So
yeah,
it's gonna happen.
it's going to
On
happen
whether
eventually.
it's on the student run level and maybe in the future on the varsity level, but it's gonna happen. So I'm excited.
Yeah.
Now you mentioned that last year's successes competitively stacked up in your favor. What were those successes?
Yeah, so Hearthstone won the TESPA championship. Don't quote me on any of these. I'm just going off the top of my head. I don't have a list. And then they qualified for the ESPN event in Houston last fall. They got top four. And then qualifying for that allowed them to go play at the Hearthstone Major in Vegas later that summer. So that's really one of our best teams. Super proud of those guys. Rocket League is another really great team. I know last fall they made finals for some tournament. And then
I
in the
think it's
spring,
yeah, RLCS, I believe.
there you go. And then spring they didn't do too hot. And then right now they are off to a very slow start, but I hope they bounce back.
Yeah.
League, I think they made playoffs for their league. No championships under their belt as far as I'm aware. And then for us, as we stated, we got third in our division in the West in the CCL, and then we placed top 14 in the playoffs. Unfortunately, didn't get to make it out of the play-in bracket, but we were against some really strong teams. So still super proud. And then Overwatch has been sort of up and down. Last year they didn't have a team, just not enough interest. But then there's been interest this year. I think they've got like 6 or 7 people. So we'll see how they do. So super excited to follow and root for those guys.
And just kind of eyeing off of Overwatch, they I believe they're pretty high up in the rankings in terms of like when they play just normal comp. So
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they're all GM. So I think that was almost like a requirement to even try out. So yeah, those guys, they're good. So I
That's
hope
a
they
high
do well.
bar.
Yeah. Maybe not GM, maybe Masters.
yeah,
Masters and higher.
because
Either way, like
Yeah.
damn.
That's
I
true.
know I'm on the B team for Rocket League. Just kind of I'm their meme guy, and I'm Diamond 2, and everyone else is either Champ or GC or A team. So
Yeah, they're good.
yeah,
Unfortunately, have been underperforming this year, but they've had a
yeah,
couple close calls. But hopefully they bounce back.
yeah.
The season is long, and if not the fall season, then the spring one.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's the benefit of how Rocket League runs is that they do the 2 separate seasons. But also that's a lot. That's super time consuming. So it's kind of nice to have, at least for us, just have that fall term to kind of get adjusted back to school and bring that GPA up, and then winter and spring and maybe a little downwards trend, but not by too much. Hopefully.
It's the short timers attitude, and then we're gonna start coining the term like tournament brain or something like that. Just being like, oh yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
championship spring, like that's all that matters.
yeah, to be honest.
So I mean, that's where we are now. That's where you guys were last year.
Yeah.
You set up the club into the varsity program. What's the goal for
Yep.
this year, and or goals for the competitive scene within campus? The goals for Call of Duty. What are you all hoping to achieve this year?
So for me as his coach, as of right now, I want to just improve on that top 14 finish.
Yeah.
Definitely, our league is definitely an interesting bag because we do play against kids that naturally go to lands. There are kids that are arguably pro am status type deal, and so we go up against tough competition, especially with people who are not too experienced in comp play, like GBs and stuff like that. And so that's kind of something me and Jack have been like looking for people that are a little bit more interested in like doing GBs more frequently, hopping into tens lobbies within our league, and just trying to sharpen their skills essentially. Because the team that did take away that title was from Canada, and we want to bring them back home to the States. That's just me
Yeah.
personally. So
Yeah. Yeah. Me personally, I think if we can get top 14 again, that'd be incredible because this year I know CCL is wanting to expand to almost over 100 teams. So if we can get top 14 this year, I'm ecstatic. Like last year there was 32 teams and we got top 14. Which is great. Still super proud. We had really no expectations to do that well, and I don't think anybody in our league did. Um, but if we can do that this year, that'd be super amazing. And again, I mean, the goal's always to win it, of course. But we've got some really stiff competition this year, so
and
we'll do our best.
oh sorry, in terms of like just generating the competitive nature on campus, it's just our program kind of like drilled this home to us. It's just championships bring like fan base, and we don't believe that personally, especially from a community we're from. Like fan base comes from like content creation. It comes from just interacting with your community, being active on Twitter, having a really funny meme on Twitter, just like making that viral or something like that. Just interacting with our community just to get more just regular people off the streets to just acknowledge us. And once you get that acknowledgement, you'll generate interest. And once that interest comes, that might be your future fan base. So in terms of that, we need other teams to win. Like we could win our season out and not get enough fan base, but if let's say like Hearthstone or Rocket League that might have a bigger fan base than us, they kind of do sometimes. Um, and if they win out, we'll get that fan base. And if they like just plug us in and be like, hey, like this is another team that's supporting Oregon, it's just a perpetuating door, and that's kind of how I see it. So.
Yeah, I mean the CCL is crazy and close knit as all hell. I mean, I got I got J Pro in chat saying it's my boy Jack and Jamal. So like,
that's the go. Love J Pro. That's
right.
One of the hardest working people. One of the hardest working people I've ever met. That dude is. I love that dude. Him and Marco, CCL goats. Like,
Yeah,
love
Marco's
those
the
guys.
over there.
Yeah, those guys are amazing. Love those guys.
And yet here you guys are, you're going to be punching each other in the nose as soon as the season goes on, and if you guys get matched up against each other with RIT. And so like, but this is the respect that you all have as part of the community, like, and that's what I love. Like I hear about it on the Collegiate Rainbow Six as well. 200 teams, and people are just like, how do we get this better? What do you need from us? What do you need from the teams? How do we get this to be better on the admin side? And like, they're building this up. So I mean, that's been the thing that I've been so impressed with is like, these are college students who are balancing their schoolwork, and then they're taking on coaching and managing and developing of skills and trying to learn and grow in this and compete, and then make a whole new schedule work for them. I mean, something that you guys don't get as like your traditional sport counterparts is a stable, steady schedule that you know ahead of time when and where it's going to happen, as opposed to, oh, we got scrims this point at this time, but then our matchup this week is, oh, they can't make Thursdays work like we tried first priority, so then it's like Tuesday, Wednesday, and Sunday at the last minute kind of thing. And like, that's all on the students. You don't have the faculty and the staff to really take that burden on. But and then at the end of the day, you all do that, and then you go back at the end of the week and say, how do we do this better? At the end of the season, how do we do that next season better? Like the amount of enthusiasm and straight up professionalism that is being exhibited across the country and across the world, really, from even some of the UK schools that I've talked to, they are just as enthused about esports as you all are, and it's just such a great community, hands down, across all games.
It is.
Oh, go ahead.
No, you go for it.
Okay. So I also just want to point out the production value for the CCL. When it was season 0 during World War II, I remember watching Chance, and their stream actually popped on, and that's the like initial start. And so the growth I've seen from season 0 till now, just amazing. And like you kind of touched on, just like they generate this schedule not only to help us out, but to help them out to keep their sanity and like manage all their stuff. It's a huge shout out to them because it just comes to show like if we're this determined to establish a community such as the CCL, like I don't even know how I'm gonna I don't even know how to like describe it properly. Like NCAA should acknowledge this eventually. Hopefully, I pray that one day I see the NCAA just say, you know what, we're gonna just let these college kids come to us, propose this idea, just see what happens. I know that's something that will never happen, but one can dream in a sense because our fan base is so big. The community is too big.
Yeah, I think the good thing about esports is like it's so diverse. Like we aren't all one major. We aren't all from one area. Like everybody's so spread out. Like I'm a general social science major. Jamal's a psychology major. We have math majors. We have business. I mean, anyone from anywhere, from any major, is a part of this club in this program. Like it's amazing. And you talk to one person and you talk to the other, and nothing can be the same except for that general interest in esports and video games. But everybody has such a passion for it. And I don't think I've ever seen a more passionate industry about esports, especially at the collegiate level, because everybody's just grinding and working so hard because they know that there's opportunities down the road that it's going to benefit putting in the work now. Yeah, and that's really why I also wanted a competitive outlet just because I played sports my entire life. So I, have that basic time management of, okay, I have practice at this time, I have games at this time, I have to schedule games, but I also have to fit in homework and class and that sort of stuff. Um, so those other things definitely helped carrying over, like you were saying, that we do all the stuff and then we have class and figure out at the end of the week, how do we do this all better? Um, so all that stuff definitely helped, but it's also a challenge. Like it's not easy, but it's worth it. I mean, if,
It's fun.
you know,
For me, at least.
not only play Call of Duty and schedule our matches and, do all that, go to class, do all that other stuff, we also are trying to be a part of the program and do stuff. Now that we are a varsity program, we have access to school branding for the most part. We have school access to school marketing. We have access to school space. Like our journalism school is building out an entire broadcast like space just for esports. Like we have our student run like TV program, but esports broadcasting will get its own space. Like that's how invested the school is. But just us as students, the school's going to do a lot of this stuff, but we're also wanting to help. Like we're reaching out to sponsors to hopefully sponsor us. We're reaching out to other students and outside people like, hey, come help us with content and that sort of stuff. So, you know, we we can settle for what the school does, and we're very grateful for that, as well as David, our program director. But I think what benefits the program the most and us is going out and doing it ourselves because that's what's going to help us down the road
And it
versus
just
just sitting back idly and letting it happen.
I
and it looks
100%
amazing
agree.
for the program. And I think the last thing you didn't mention, Jack, is just like even though we did start like last year, just taking that long shot and calling out like or reaching out towards orgs. So I know when me and Jack both agreed on like coaching, I was just like, hey, let me try set up scrims with amateur teams. I know a pro team won't message me. Like, I'm realistic about this stuff and stuff like that. And so after watching the CWL like finals, all that stuff, I I was like, you know what? Let's reach out to Sicario, War, and a couple other organizations. And I actually got response back. I just said, hey, I'm from the University of Oregon. And like I gave them the spiel. I was like, if you have some pipeline players that you have that are trying to go up into your team, we want to play them, set up a scrim, we can like stream, generate some content with you guys. And they loved it. Sure, a couple of them flaked out. Like it was okay, but like the fact that I was getting these responses and I was sharing this with Jack just even proved how like awesome this community can be at one point in time. It's refreshing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And not even just the community, but the power of the name, the University of Oregon. Like the
Yeah,
power that that name holds is crazy. Like if you said some smaller school, like they probably aren't going to respond. But as soon as you say that name, they're automatically interested, which is a super big benefit for us. And this is why I harp so much on the school pushing on content because if someone sees that the university has esports, they're going to start looking into coming to the school specifically for esports. We don't offer scholarships at the moment, but I've already had DMs from prospective students being like, "Hey, do you have scholarships?" You know, we don't know their skill level, but just for the fact that they're interested and are wanting to know and are looking for that sort of thing, it really tells the story. So
absolutely.
it's incredible.
I are either of you familiar with Gary Vaynerchuk?
Yes,
Gary V.
love
So
Gary Vee.
he did. I forget. This was maybe last year or just like a number of months ago. He went to Alabama State or Bama, and he talked to their football program there. And he was like,
Mhm.
"While you are here, you have the one of the most powerful football brands behind you, and while you are a player here, you have the support of what that brand has built up over the years that it's been developed as one of the best programs out there. Esports is getting there. Like we don't recognize the players for the brand yet, but we're getting to the point where esports is being accepted and bought in on, and all of these leagues are being built out. TESPA, the Riot, was it RIA T or whatever the League of
I have
Legends,
no idea what their league is. Yeah.
whatever the new group is. There's that, and then TESPA and NACE and all the other kind of public leagues that are being built out there, CR6, CCL, all of that. We haven't gotten to that point of organizing collegiate esports necessarily to a formal organization, but once people get there and once people start understanding these are the power schools, not just the first people who bought into esports, but this is where the level of the playing field is level. Everyone's gotten used to the format. The schools are supporting the schedules, all that kind of stuff. And then when players start coming out, I mean, we're already starting to see people who are from the collegiate scene being grabbed by professional organizations. And it's just a matter of time before esports and the university brand are being merged into allowing the players to leverage that university brand. And so that's just
Right.
super exciting for me. It's just like
It
that
is.
speech.
It is. Yeah, it's super exciting, and I think that's why me and Jamal have pushed so much that content is king. I know Jamal talked about it for a second, but Call of Duty esports was built off of content. That entire fan base was brought in because they were a large group of casual Call of Duty players who found these teams that made good content and they were funny and they were obviously very good at the game. So that's how everybody for the most part was brought into competitive Call of Duty. That's how I came in. I came in at the end of MW3 watching Optic content. And since then, it's been 7-8 years and here I am still. So I think that's why we've been harping on it. And that's also the diversity of esports is that League of Legends and CS, those fan bases are built up of wins. Like I don't know League like what the super huge teams are, but like in CS, the biggest fan bases right now are Astralis and Liquid. Why? Because they win. That's just how it works in those esports. But for us, and I think what we're trying to get the school and our program director to understand is that not every team is going to win every single championship. It just can't happen. So if you're drawing in people with content, like you're going to get more eyes. I mean, you know, the football team, our other traditional sports teams don't make content, but that's also how traditional sports just works. People in your area are a fan of the team because of regionalization and because they win. But because esports is such a global thing, if you can relate to people on a personal level and you can do pretty well in your league at the same time, you're going to be way bigger than someone who just wins or is terrible and just makes content.
Yeah, and what's what's really interesting, I haven't talked to Jack about this. Like, I'm quietly being like trying to assemble like an Avengers type deal going on over here. Like,
A content Avengers.
yeah, like we have some kids that want to play, but at the same time they're really good at making content, and so I'm like, okay, that's cool. I'm also like quietly reaching out to some of the student athletes that like are in my classes that do basketball and football, and like everyone knows under the sun they're either playing Madden, 2K, Call of Duty, like Apex,
Thanks.
all those AAA title games, and so it's just like, okay, I don't need to go to their coach and be like, hey, I'm just this kid. I can just go to them directly and be like, hey, you want to just play some games and just hang out for a little bit, get to know one another, and eventually like, hey, would your school like would the team be down to like I don't know stream with us one time? Just even like that one little interaction can make a difference. And so
And there's
I've
no
been
harm in
quiet.
asking.
Yeah, there's none whatsoever.
And I
Yeah.
mean, for a lot of those other traditional sports who are players who are already there, the university has already paid for their time, like through major scholarships, through room and board, through whatever perks the individual players have gotten. So
Yep.
getting anything out of them for esports content, anything else that puts them behind that UO branding is just better for the school and it brings the attention back to you all and
Right.
it's just so much value built into itself that it's just a duh move. And so I'm going to do it again. I'm going to harp on Arizona State University because their faculty has just openly opposed esports despite having probably the biggest
Yeah,
online supporter.
yeah, I've seen
Discord.
a lot of stuff on Twitter too. Yeah.
And props, I forget her name, but she is still driving
Yes.
at ASU,
Yeah, I've
and
seen people
huge
retweet her
props
stuff.
to her. Huge props
Yeah,
to
I don't
her,
know her
and
name, but
I'm so glad that Doc and AJ Haskell and many other people, Moogs over at Oklahoma, like they're all supporting her. They're all continually pushing her to keep going, and that's what we need in esports. We don't need
yep.
this like congratulations, you're the first athletes that suffer from heart disease kind of attitudes that have come from ASU, and you are doing your students a disservice if you're going to ignore what they're interested in. So
Yeah.
shape up.
And yeah, we've been super grateful that our staff is, we keep saying that, but super grateful for the faculty that they backed us this fast and are really putting our faith in us. Um, because I know a lot of schools have not had great experiences. Which I understand, people are definitely still skeptical about esports. And those people are just behind. I mean, it's going to be $1 billion business. That's just purely for esports. Video games is, I don't know the number, but it's way more than that. So I think you're crazy to not back it. And like you said earlier, that people who still haven't backed it are way behind.
And I mean, I know Jack. I know you follow physics,
Yeah.
so it's just amazing just kind of seeing what he says on Twitter. Him just generating an esports community, and I could be wrong when I say that, but like him being the captain for Ole Miss, then turning around like them backing him so hard, and now they're doing a blood drive, and like they're giving out Team Liquid merch, and it's just like I want our school to be that supportive at the end of the day, like be like, hey, you want to be the face of like a blood drive, or you want this, like we don't. At the end of the day, we want to be our own entity, but at the same time, it would be super cool to just like bring other aspects into it, just have that camaraderie because me and Jack both have that like high school experience and like I had the opportunity to do track for D2. So it's like having that sense of family just even with like traditional sports just makes us feel more welcome. So
Yeah.
Now, I mean, I called out ASU. Jack, you mentioned that other schools have had other troubles with support. What has been like the biggest trial that University of Oregon Esports has had to go through, if you've experienced one?
I don't, I mean, nothing really comes off of the top of my head. I think kind of behind closed doors, it's really been us surviving the Call of Duty team. Um, you know, um, yeah, I mean, the school's really been, I keep saying it, but they really kind of went all in right away. I think last year was sort of the test, just throwing us a club sport. Because even though it's a club sport, it's not, we weren't really funded by the university. Like anything had to be done through fundraising or donors or just individual money. Um, but they saw that we succeeded doing that, and they just said, "Hey, let's go all in."
yeah,
So
I mean
you,
now
you
because we're
really,
a varsity sport, we have a physical therapist now for arthritis in our hands. And
dude, I don't even know like what we get access to now. I don't know how it works, but really nothing comes off the top of my head. I'm sure a lot of that was behind closed doors. With David, our program director, and the other guy he worked with on getting this all and making this all happen. Um, and I'm sure stuff's going on now. Like I know they've had branding trouble because Nike owns every University of Oregon logo ever. Um,
uh,
so right now we have to use what we call the Walmart duck. So like what you'll see like sold in Target or on
or the
Amazon,
hat
and
he's
that isn't.
wearing.
Oh no, this is Nike. This is
Yeah,
Nike. But um, so just trying to go through those hurdles. Getting stuff approved by the school. Contractors getting stuff done on time. But really, like internally in the program, there's really not been much struggle. Each team's kind of, at least last year, we were all really allowed to work on our own. Like David was just president in Cub last year, but we still operated under that because club sports didn't really have much involvement with us just because they didn't know enough. So they just kind of threw all the power to us. So we were really allowed to kind of operate on our own. We made our schedules, did our, figured out when games were, when practices were, and I'm guessing that's how other teams operated as well. So we really had no oversight, which was scary, but also helped a lot because it just helped with time management and figuring out, kind of workload and what worked for everybody else. And so it was
And if there was a
definitely
mistake, you
nice.
got to own it. Like everyone
Right.
knew
And that's
where the ball was dropped.
right. And that was also the sense of liability too. And I think that's a little bit of the weight off of our shoulders this year as well. But because the school still doesn't know a ton about esports, they're just backing it because they see these numbers and a large group of people who are interested in it. They're still saying like, hey, take over a lot of this stuff, but more of like the like admin stuff like marketing, advertising, branding, that sort of stuff. That's obviously a much bigger overarching issue. But in terms of like actual program stuff, it's really all under David and um, team managers and captains. So a lot of the power is still in our hands, which I know a lot of people were worried about, including myself, just how involved was the school going to be? Because I always relate bad stuff in esports back to Infinite with the whole optics situation. I just didn't want that where they just took over and it kind of just crashed and burned very quickly. But it looks like luckily they realized that they don't know too much and that we know enough to kind of manage it on our own. But they're of course there with whatever we need.
I have to admit, I'm so looking forward to Seattle Call of Duty just crushing the Optic
Ooh.
team. I am so ready for that.
I'm ready for Chicago. This is
Yeah.
we can get it all. We could spend a whole another hour on this, but I'm from LA. So when
Oh
I
boy.
knew that Optic was going to be the LA franchise, I didn't know at that point if Hex was still going to be involved, if we were going to have the old roster just in LA. I was like, okay, maybe. But then, Crim6 Ian, he tweeted like, yeah, that's not us. And all just went downhill. And then Hex went to NRG and they have Chicago. So I've been an Optic fan for 8 years, but not anymore. I'm a Chicago COD fan and an NRG fan. So here we are.
It's going to be crazy because the way I see it, it's like LA just painted a target on their face, and it's like
Oh,
they're like the New England Patriots, the Chicago Bulls from the '90s, and I had another team lined up. I forget who.
Like the Warriors and
Yeah,
Cavs right now.
like they just
just
painted this
everybody hates
huge
them.
like insult on their face. New York Yankees, that was the other team. Like
Yeah, the
all
Yankees,
of
Red
this like
Sox too.
yeah, just these big names. Like they took that brand, they just took the brand, and it's soiled now. And now I just can't wait for the
It's
Seattle's that just stomp them into the ground.
I can't wait for everybody. As much as that pains me as a longtime Optic fan and someone from LA, it's just at the end of the day, it's just purely disrespectful. Like you take this brand and you just buy it out. I really thought, you know, I didn't know much about Immortals. I knew they owned the Valiant, just because I'm follow Owl a bit. Um, but I really didn't know much about their org, but I heard, good things. They're a good group of people. I thought, maybe they're gonna do the right thing here and let Hex run it, give them partial ownership and, however they wanted to handle it. But really it's I don't know. It's very frustrating. It's just it doesn't mean the same thing. It's just a logo. I don't know. And it's a whole other Activision thing too. They want to regionalize it and they wanted these own unique brands. But why are they allowing a long-time organization for the name to exist in the league? I mean, I guess the same thing kind of goes with FaZe, if they're going to be called the Atlanta FaZe. Um, they're just switching it up. I mean, they are the two brands that really built COD along with Envy, but I still don't think it should make an exception unless
Yeah,
Hex was running it. Then it can be an exception. But because
You
he's not,
didn't
then
notice. This is Jack's hot button issue because
oh
I'm
man,
passionate about
people, I get teased all the time for being an Optic fan, and everybody just keeps saying Immortals, Immortals. I'm like, yeah, I got it. So I could talk for hours just about
well
Optic.
then, when there's more information about the CDL, we'll have to have you on to the Call of the Sea podcast I got going on, which is going to be the fan cast for the Call of Duty Seattle team. So
That's awesome. Yeah,
unofficial.
I'd be
This
more than
is all
happy
just
to.
my own thing, but we're going to be talking more
Yeah,
Call of Duty.
definitely. Yeah, I mean, especially with how the format's going to be this year with open events hosted by each city, we are sort of, nothing's really been announced, but already internally we're discussing, okay, are we flying to LA or we? And I think Seattle is kind of
Seattle's better.
been the pick, unless we're going to the LA Gorillas, which we already kind of struck out with them with Kroenke. We talked to some of those people and they didn't have too much involvement. So if Seattle wants to come invite us out and support us, let us know at UO Esports on Twitter.
I mean, I'm a Washington native. I lived an hour away. I would love to go back in Seattle and just like, I don't even care if it's the Waffle Theater and go play there. I don't care if it's like, I mean, it would never be CenturyLink because it's open field, but like, it would be fun. It would be amazing for me to go back home,
Yeah,
like even
Seattle's a
going back to Seattle and play.
Seattle's a cool city, man. I'd be so down.
Well, we're getting down to that last few minutes of an hour. I don't want to keep
Yeah.
you all too much
No,
longer. You've
all
got
good.
bigger priorities, but I want to give you guys have an opportunity to do some shout outs, say anything that we left on the table to be said about University of Oregon esports that you want to make sure gets out there. The floor is yours. By all means, let us all know what does University of Oregon esports have going on.
Go for it,
Yeah,
Jack.
yeah. So I know our Rocket League team is playing right now. They're currently in season. I think they play tomorrow night at 5:50 p.m. on the Rocket League Twitch channel. I know Hearthstone is in season as well. I think League of Legends is coming up probably in winter. We are as well. I think Overwatch is maybe in a couple months in the winter. Not too sure about them. We got our esports lounge coming at the beginning of winter term, so around January. So stay tuned for that. Otherwise, follow us on socials at UO Esports on Twitter and Instagram, and then join our Discord just to kind of hang out, play some games, meet the competitive players, program director, and just make some new friends. That's discord.gg/UO Esports.
Just take all of it. Just take all of it.
Go ahead. What else do you want to say?
Talking like a real admin over there. If you have any local people coming around that's in Oregon, local Oregonians, we do have a thing called Boomers to Zoomers. It's like an in-house thing, October 25th from 5 to 7 in the EMU. But outside of that, I just want to say thank you for having us. I mean, this
Yeah,
was a
thank you
great
so
opportunity
much.
for us. Shout out to the CCL. Shout out to J Pro for giving us a shout out. You're
Shout
the
out
GOAT,
J-Bro,
even though
shout
we're
out
never
Marco.
active. So
Yep.
thank you for that. I mean, honestly, we're just out here grinding. We're gonna start grinding as soon as Modern Warfare comes out.
Yep.
We're gonna establish us as a COD school instead of just being a League of Legends school. That's our goal before we graduate. Uh, I feel like me and Jack have put a nice little imprint on esports, and so we just want to keep growing, and hopefully it doesn't die out when we.
Yep.
Well, you guys are more than welcome on having you out this time. You're more than welcome to come back if any other events or
Thanks.
results come out. I'm happy to boost the signal. I say it to every club out there. Everyone's been so genuine, so real, so adamant about building what is important to them. I would be doing everyone a disservice if I didn't extend that olive branch to keep things going. So anything big or small, feel free to let me know. And if it's just something real quick, there is anchor.fm/ the summoning hour / message, and you can leave a voicemail there, and I can put it back into a future podcast as well. So we can keep the news churning out, we can keep the scores churning out, make sure that your rivals know you're coming for them, all of that good stuff. You can trash talk J Pro and Marco just every
Never.
other episode. Like, there you go.
That team has nothing on us.
Yeah. Pac-12, don't even make a team. You're gonna get smoked. Just don't do it. Don't make a team.
There you go. So thank you guys for coming out. I appreciate your time, and I look forward to seeing how the CCL treats you all, as well as moving forward. And hopefully, if you're up here for any of the CDL, you guys and I can get together and meet up and go watch a match together.
Yeah, let's go for it.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
All right, thanks guys. Thanks for coming out again. It was a pleasure talking with you.
Yeah, you as well. Thanks so much.
Yeah, have a good one.
Yeah,
You too. Take it easy, guys. And that's it for the stream. Thank you everyone for coming out and listening. JPro, thank you for commenting out there on Periscope and Twitter. I do appreciate that and giving attention to the cast. And this podcast will go out next Monday. And so we are good to go for that week. And if you have any other feedback, feel free to reach out to me. I'm at Warlocker Call on pretty much every major social media and Twitch and Mixer and YouTube, all that stuff. And as I mentioned, /message for leaving a message or /support, anchor.fm/the summoning hour /support if you feel like contributing to improving the podcast. Outside of that, I have the anchor.fm/Call of the Sea podcast coming out, so be sure to subscribe to that as we get more information on the CDL. And also the Check Your Six podcast, anchor.fm/check the number 6, is also the podcast covering the Call of Duty, or not Call of Duty, Collegiate Rainbow Six League, as well as some of the North American Pro League information. So be sure to tune in to those and subscribe to those, and I will catch you all next time on the Summoning Hour. Later, taters.